So, oh, let me turn off my phone. So I thought of you because, let me turn this off. There we go. You know, even though I was born in Kentucky, my mother moved here with me when I was 1 year old to Chatham. And I have a um, affection and loyalty to Chicago. So when I hear about people talking about Chicago in regards to violence and murders, like that's all that Chicago's about. Like I feel a way about that because what I know about Chicago is that this is like the heart of many institutions, Black institutions, as well as a very powerful, uh, innovative, pioneering, healing community. So I found out about Dr. Alvinia Fulton years ago, and I did some searching and then found you and a group that were looking to revitalize Fultonia. And so I posed a question yesterday on social media. What do Chicago, Dick Gregory, and Queen Afua have in common? So can you answer that question?
Yes, well, I mean, the engagement, the encounter, the life and work of Dr. Alvinia Fulton, the intersection.
Exactly. And I just, and to go back a little further, one of my, probably since like 2008, I've been doing wellness transformation projects. And one of the participants tagged me in a post about the wellness pioneers. And I looked at it. She tagged me. She's like, you should have been on there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Queen Afua should have been on there. Like, there's so many, and it was all millennials. It's like, how are millennials, like, no disrespect, we love our children, but how do you not go back? So then my big sister's like, well, what about Dr. Alvinia Fulton? So that was the first time I'd heard of Dr. Alvinia Fulton. So I really wanted to, I'm committed that more people know about her and her work and the fact that her hand has influenced our culture today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's so, first I'll just kind of, because I also believe both in lineage and in connection. I'll give, praise, honor, credit to my collaborators on the Fultonia Endeavor project. Which were, the sort of lead artists there, Ebony Hawkins, now doing some work around urban planning in Philadelphia. Sojourner Wright came on and did some ritual work on in Inglewood with us. There was Sam Scipio, who did some design and artist work with us at various times. I think, Michael Johnson was in some early conversations with us around that. And Aaron, why am I forgetting there? Oh, Aaron Borenson, who did a lot of photography for the project. So that's just connecting the collaborators. But I'm also rooted in sort of the lineage conversation. And yeah, I encountered Dr. Fulton through Dr. Jafunza Wright Carter and the Healthy Food Hub. If I hadn't been working in the Healthy Food Hub, I also wouldn't know about Dr. Fulton. And that inspired me to want to work on a project that was mining and digging at that legacy, scratching the surface, getting beneath, these stories. When I did a presentation at the end of that project, I actually called it the sort of myth and legend of Dr. Alvinia Fulton, because some of what you hear of the work is like, it's mythical. It's a sort of, this can't be true. But I mean, the storytelling is a sort of natural, storytelling happens, and it's the whisper song. And basically, the whisper kind of moves through ears, moves through hearts, and you get what you get now. But the myth matched the person for me in this instance, in terms of what I've seen.
Wow. I mean, and the thing, as you speak, it seems like the thing about myths is how the actual experience left people feeling. So even though it may not be fact for fact, it's still truth in how it made these people feel.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone, noted just going into the store and asking a question or seeking a remedy, and coming away from that, I compare it to like a conversation that I had around facilitation, around getting paid for facilitation work, which is that, you know, if I come from a transaction feeling like reciprocal, feeling whole, I feel entirely better about the entire exchange. I have no idea, what the sort of there could have been a problem way early on in the conversation, but at the end, I came away from the conversation feeling whole. At the end, folks came away feeling like, whoa, I'm whole. I feel healed. I feel much better. You had something to do with that, Dr. Fulton. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So what's the most mythical story you've heard about the doctor, Dr. Fulton?
Well, the one, so I was on the project, I was the editor of the publication, The Other Side of the Lane. And we did 3 issues of newsprint, I still have several copies of them around. If folks just want to explore them, I will get you through the 3 issues. But so that my responsibility was going back and mining like things like these old Ebony and Jet magazines. Like I've got so many cutouts of little articles and snippets and photos that I snatched from the digital archive. I'm not an archivist, but I did my level best as an amateur. But the sort of the one key story that was always told was about the fact that there were that there were pimps who would go into the Dr. Fulton store, and they would order the salad and have the side of dressing, leave the salad, drink the dressing, and leave, because the dressing was known as a revitalizing agent, as it were, right? And so they would come into the store just to kind of get that salad dressing. And and so that's one of those myth-making stories. Who knows how many of them frequented the store? But hey, that is a story that is told.
That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. So I know that her students or proteges have included Queen Afua. Queen Afua actually gives her honor and respect in her book. And I know Dick Gregory, he talks about in his book, oh my gosh, what is the name of the book? The name of it's escaping me. I have it upstairs.
Health for folks who eat, natural food for folks who eat, something like that. Yeah.
Something about cooking in the kitchen. Wait, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I can't think of the name of it. So definitely Dick Gregory, as well as, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Hugh Jenkins, who's a naturopathic physician. She actually was responsible for him going on to study. And he's to this day still serving. And I think his daughter actually now is getting into, so her hand is still present in our culture. Actually reached out to him this morning, so we may be having a conversation too. Mm-hmm. So with your project, what was the big picture? What did you all hope to create from coming together?
Yeah, so, the part of this goes back to Ebony's own story. And, I won't, it's not for me to kind of unpack the sort of broader, deeper story, but the story that she did commit to publicly, that I will offer is that she was experiencing some health challenges. She was going to repeated doctor visits and things could not be figured out. And so in her research, she came upon the work of Dr. Fulton. And, one of the early, the sort of inception point of Dr. Fulton's life, or Dr. Fulton's work, is that she was, in Tennessee, doing ministry or something of that nature, began to experience, some sort of stomach ailment, and came north to get it treated. Could not really find physicians that would treat it, and then ended up getting treated with cabbage juice, right? And so that's the sort of that's the connection to the Ebony as the sort of lead on the project, and and bringing the project to the rest of us, and then the sort of history of Dr. Fulton. And the desired ambition, so we have a number of ambitions that we attempted, could not get a few of them through. One of them was we wanted to revitalize the building, or get a group of artists to revitalize the building in Inglewood. That was much more of a project than we had anticipated. And then there was, we had to learn a whole bunch about what development was and what we did not necessarily want to be connected to, but one key aspect for me, sort of my commitment as the editor and as sort of storyteller, was to go and harvest stories, and which, is very difficult to do, because it's really about getting people's time. And then, and sometimes that's like old history, and folks are like, I don't want to go back and try to remember that, but what we did do with the publication was we documented some stories. We extracted some of the histories from some of the historical magazines, and then we connected it to some of the work that the project was able to do, like one of our collaborators. I did not name Yamani Yanza as one of our collaborators there. And what Yamani did in one, I think along 67, right across from Kasanya Cafe, was to do a massage on a vacant lot. So, a lot activation, bringing healing into the lot, creating a space, creating a container in which, this particular healing could happen. We did some lot activations directly alongside the store, on 63rd, as well as across the street at a church. So a lot of it was really about community activation. It was about creating spaces in community. And Ebony was particularly concerned that, like, adults don't have places in Inglewood to go out and just have a good time outside. Now, nobody's going outside. That's understandable. But she was at the time concerned, like, hey, we don't have public places to kind of gather and convene. Let's create some convening on these unactivated, inactive lots. Not unlike the work now happening, or not now happening, but long happening with the Resident Association of Greater Inglewood. And so, that's those were some of the aspirations: activating the lots, activating the store, bringing attention to the history, bringing people through Inglewood on tours to kind of engage and understand this history, and then documenting some of it in a publication that could have an ongoing life. Which we had a publication that was a fold-out, and inside of the fold-out issues, there is a wheat paste poster that is effectively a healing diagram, right? If you go through each of the issues, you will ask yourself some questions that will allow you to custom craft healing solutions for yourself. So, that's the sort of great grand vision of Fultonia.
Wow. Like, I remember when I saw the project, I felt so grateful that somebody was already on it, because did she have a street named after her?
I don't know if they ended up naming that particular street. 63rd and Damon is the intersection.
Okay. That's where
Yeah, I could be wrong. There could be a sign there that I'm just forgetting about. But yeah, 63rd and Damon is where the Fultonia store lives, or one of the Fultonia stores.
What's the exact address? Do you know?
I do not have the exact address, but it is on 63rd.
So you said one of her stores. She had more than one?
Yes, to my knowledge, she had the store on 63rd and Damon, in Inglewood, but then she also had a store in maybe the sort of Woodlawn, Hyde Park region. I don't know if it was where Bon Asante was, but it's somewhere in that sort of that quadrant, but yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, it's just, I remember, and we'll close soon because it's almost the 30 minutes that I asked for, but I remember attending my daughter's graduation, and at the beginning they said, welcome to our 106th graduate commencement. And somehow that hit me, that institution, organization had been doing something for 106 years. And so I look at people like, you know, really key people, women like Madam C.J. Walker and her mentor, Annie Malone, yeah, and even Dr. Alvenia Fulton, like, actually, Madam C.J. Walker, there is a company that is reviving the product, so that's good. But it's just like, how can we keep things going so that we have 106th year or something? So, and I guess it's just really having value in what we do and creating systems of generational tradition, and just really seeing the value in our cultures and traditions, because I just feel like her work is just a gold mine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would agree that, you know, definitely, like, yeah, we scratched the surface. And again, I was, you know, barely, you know, doing sort of work of archivist. At the time, Dr. Frederick Douglass Opie, I want to think I'm getting his middle name right, but certainly Frederick Opie. But he had done a biography of Dr. Fulton for some sort of like encyclopedic publication on women and health. And Frederick Opie was the author of Hog and Hominy, you know, which is a history of Black cuisine. And so we had traded a few emails, just kind of, you know, with me establishing, hey, here's the project that I'm working on. You know, what are the sort of oral archives that you're holding or that you're sitting on? How can I contribute to them? How can we exchange them? So, you know, I think part of it is respecting that oral archiving tradition or oral archiving culture. It's not that necessarily, like, I mean, maybe we're capital challenged to establish grand institutions of health that can hold the history right now, but we could at least do the work of respecting and honoring and continuing the oral tradition around people that will allow that when someone like a Dr. Frederick Douglass Opie comes along, and he has like an institution behind them that can archive this work, we have the people and we have the stories in such a way that we can contribute them to these institutions. And so that was the sort of small work that I was trying to contribute to the conversation. And, you know, and so I think that's a way to do institutional development in a way that's uniquely African, right? I mean, we are an oral people. We love storytelling. You know, we got Anansi tales, we got Goat and Switch, you know, I mean, we got all kind of folk tales that we tell. This can be the thing that we hold as an institution to continue things on.
I love that. Yeah, the whole idea of a Jolly Kunda.
Yes.
Yeah, so, oh my gosh, I had one more thing I wanted to ask while you were saying that. Oh my goodness, it just escaped. See, it's so funny. My mom interrupts. She's like, I have to interrupt because if I don't interrupt you, I'll forget it. And I didn't want to interrupt you. Well, I hope to talk to you again. I just, thank you so much for making yourself available. But so quickly, because I posed the question and nobody guessed it. I said, actually have been challenged to make 90 YouTube videos and, you know, every day for 90 days. And so I posed the question, what do Chicago, Dick Gregory, and Queen Afua have in common? And nobody guessed it. So would you have guessed it?
You know, I mean, I don't know if I hadn't had that sort of, you know, this pre-staging, you know, like I probably would not have made the connection immediately. But, you know, yeah.
Well, Chicago's about a lot more than just killings and murders. Yeah, it's
absolutely.
This is a vortex of great creativity, innovation, and I really feel like we affect the world.
Yes.
Give them credit for that.
No, I would be willing to argue for Chicago as a creative capital and creative center in the U.S. Right? I mean, the type of artistry that comes out of here and the ways that it travels coastally, right? Travels out, you know. Unprecedented, right? You know,
I remember what I wanted to ask you. I have been trying to get my hands on some of her primers. I know she had a fasting primer. She had a collection of books. And so I did meet one of her clients that said she might have some you know, in her home. So I'm gonna have to, you know, circle back around and see if she has them. Have you seen any of her published works or any of her primers?
Yeah, I have the fasting primer, which is, you know, basic work, and then I have vegetarian fact and myth. You know, both. I mean, yeah, both out of print titles. And at the time that I bought them, I probably did pay the sort of premium. What was the premium on Amazon? And now it's like probably $1,000 at this point or something. But
So
I paid, you know, maybe $100 for, you know, between each of them or something like that,
I would.
as a part of the project. But you know, yeah, and I've been investigating the possibility of, like, you know, does someone own the copyright? Because I mean, it's nothing to like retype the material, right? I mean, these are just materials that were sort of printed and just kind of ran out of print because there's no publisher anymore.
Yeah.
Who owns copyright? I don't know. So.
I remember the other question I had. Are any of her family members around, or do we know about her lineage?
Um, I was not able to locate any of them, you know, or at least, you know, none of them kind of engaged with the project at the time. Um, I have, you know, a few messages that came into the sort of voicemail for the project way later, you know, of folks who were asking about books or folks who said they were related, but that was after the sort of project timeline had sunsetted, so I hadn't really engaged in a lot of follow up with that particular, you know, those particular calls.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I think I'm gonna hop in my car and drive over to 63rd and Damon and see what's there. Is there any evidence of Full Tony at all? Any signage or anything?
There was signage at the time when we hosted the project. Since then, like at the time we were looking at the building purchase, some other developer came in and bought it, took the signage down.
Oh no.
I think we made an ask of them, like, hey, could we take the sign? And I don't think it was, no, it wasn't honored, you know, because I'm the only person that's like still holding materials from Photonia. So yeah, we did not get the signage. Otherwise it would be in my garage with me trying to figure out what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it boggles my mind, people that just have no value in like legacy or, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, well, I look forward to connecting again about this. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, the last thing I would say is just that WVON, this also was not an archive I could get access to at the time, but they were the holder or the host station of the Voice of Life, you know, her radio segment, which, you know, ran for, you know, some years. I just could never figure out how to get access to those segments. They're probably sitting on somebody's tapes or in somebody's archives. Right. So yeah, somebody should should do more work than I did to kind of get those from WVON.
Yeah, she had, I remember now, she had a radio show, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, she like her and Madam C.J. Walker had very similar spirits, you know, just that very, from what I'm just gathering about the things that they did, just very enterprising. And yeah, yes. Especially her having 2 locations in Chicago, that speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So to be continued?
To be continued, absolutely.
All right.